Hella fellas. Welcome back to Top 5 Choices. Today's video I am gonna do a detailed review and pick the top 5 best laptops under $2,000 2021. After doing proper researches, we came to the conclusion that meets the best in terms of overall. Kindly leave a like if you find this helpful, and I'd appreciate if you subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications if you haven't. We will be also providing affiliates link to purchase from Amazon. Kindly use to for best offers and purchase from anywhere in the world. We'll be back with more videos. The case of the Predator Trident 500 is a satisfying aluminum on top and bottom, giving it an air of indestructibility. Though my confidence in the top lid isn't the highest, there's a higher than expected level of flex in the screen section, particularly next to something like the Asus ROG Zephyrus 14. That could just be a case of geometry, of course. The 15.6 inches panel here is clearly larger than the Zephyrus 14-incher, but I would have appreciated a little more bracing. I've mentioned the Max-Q graphics card, so let's start there. Acer has wedged in a seriously strong 8GB NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080 Super, which, at time of writing, sits at the very top end of laptop pixel pushers. 30 series mobile graphics devices are coming, but we're yet to see what they'll be able to do, particularly in a space as small as this one. To help you make the most of that graphical prowess, Acer has buddied the graphics card up with a 300Hz panel which can overdrive to 3 milliseconds response time and supports G-Sync. This is just about the best 1-2 punch you could ask for at this point. The panel itself is not without a couple of minor drawbacks, as we'll discover, but it's certainly an impressive combo. The Omen 15's 144Hz anti-glare screen is plenty bright and colorful. HP rates it for 300 nits and 72% coverage of the NTSC gamut. It also offers wide viewing angles so the picture never washes out. The panel lacks support for frame rate smoothing technologies such as G-Sync or FreeSync, but these are rarely seen outside of much more expensive gaming notebooks. The Omen 15 also does well in connectivity by offering 4 USB ports, 3 Type-A and 1 Type-C, all version 3.2 Gen 1 supporting 5 gigabits per second signaling rates, HDMI 2.0A and mini display port video outputs, an Ethernet jack, a full-size SD card reader, and an audio combo, headphone/microphone, jack. Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5 come courtesy of its Intel AX200 wireless card. One deficiency that the Omen 15 shares with most gaming notebooks in this price range is a lack of built-in biometric features, such as a fingerprint reader or face recognition webcam. The ho-hum image quality from its 720p webcam is also status quo. As laptop screen bezels have shrunk, the Omen 15 screen is about as wide as the laptop itself, so has the available width for keyboards. Rather than cram in a number pad, HP included a desktop-like cluster of navigation keys and, gasp, full-size arrow keys in a most productive use of the space. Gamers out for flashy looks might bemoan this Omen's white-only keyboard backlighting, as some gaming notebooks in this price range offer customizable RGB colors. However, given the lack of customization here, I'd argue that white is preferable to the red that has been overused on gaming notebooks. The design of the GIGABYTE AORUS 15P Yard doesn't have many bells or whistles and plays things relatively safe. There is some of the typical RGB lighting that in true GIGABYTE fashion comes out of the box in a blinding level of brightness, but it's restricted to the keyboard and can be switched off where needed. The chassis is rather boxy and lacks anything distinguishing which attributes to the more retro look we mentioned earlier. It isn't inherently ugly, but there are certainly fancier looking gaming laptops on the market, so this can work both ways. The more conservative design of the AORUS 15P will be better suited if you need a singular device for things like study or work, as well as gaming. It weighs in at 5.25 pounds, 2.38 kilograms and measures 14 by 9.6 by 1.06 inches, 357 by 244 by 27 millimeters, which isn't particularly slim or lightweight. But you'll have no issue walking around with it in a satchel or backpack. A benefit of having such a thick build is the resulting build quality, which is resoundingly solid. The keyboard baseplate is typically an area on laptops that flexes when pressure is applied, but the AORUS 15P Yard doesn't have much give to it. The hinges also feel very robust, so while we wouldn't advise throwing it around, this feels like a gaming laptop that can handle being roughed up. The trackpad is fairly standard for a gaming laptop, as the assumption is that you'll use a gaming mouse or game controller, so it's perfectly serviceable and responsive but lacks any real grain, and there was space available to make it larger and more central. The RGB backlit keyboard sadly lacks the appeal of the mechanical style one seen on the GIGABYTE AORUS 17G, but it does manage to squeeze in a numpad. The result is a little cramped, but the keys themselves feel tactile when you get used to the layout. On the left-hand side of the chassis, you'll find a dedicated HDMI, mini display port, USB Type-A port, 3.5mm headphone jack and Ethernet jack. The Razer Blade 15's design hasn't changed much in recent years, and we're not exactly complaining. It still has the all-black unibody aluminum chassis and the Razer logo illuminated on the top of the laptop. There's also a large trackpad and some of the best speakers in a gaming laptop today. And, of course, a keyboard that's simply to die for. For a laptop that houses such powerful hardware, it's also incredibly thin and light, weighing in at just 4.4 pounds and measuring just 0.67 inches thick. This makes the Razer Blade 15 one of the most portable laptops in its class, and gamers that don't want to sacrifice performance while traveling are going to find a lot to love here. However, this portability is betrayed at least a little bit by the large charging brick. It's definitely smaller than some past versions of this laptop, but it still adds a bit of bulk to the package, especially since the Razer Blade 15 still can't get you a full day of work on battery power. More on that later. The model we're looking at here is the one with a 4K Touch OLED display, and wow is it gorgeous. It has an average brightness around 313 nits, which isn't the brightest in the world, but when combined with its ability to hit 109% of the sRGB color spectrum, it's simply a beautiful display to look at. Whether playing games or just binging Netflix in bed, any gaming laptop with an 11th generation Core i7 processor and an RTX 3080 is going to absolutely dominate any game you throw at it. But what was surprising is how well this laptop handled games at 4K. The Tough-15's appearance is what you'd expect from a brand pushing military spec mil STD durability standards. It isn't a behemoth, but its hard edges and giant tough branding on the back let you know this isn't your typical office notebook. While it bills itself as a thin and light, it is still a 15-inch gaming laptop. Certainly not as bulky as some of its competitors, but I wouldn't exactly call it svelte. But that's okay, because its size may allow it a bit more power than comparably specced laptops, not to mention more cooling potential. The bottom case uses a smooth, black finish with just a bit of texture to the right and left of the keyboard, and some decidedly tough-looking speaker grills along the top. There's a white version too, with similar flourishes. The keyboard itself is backlit and allows comfortable typing, thanks to its large size, standard key spacing, and relatively deep travel at 1.7mm. The WASD keys are translucent, and the W key contains a subtle notch so you can easily find your way back home when gaming. The lighting is not particularly customizable, though, with no RGB and only 3 animated patterns to choose from, but it's functional if you're gaming at night, which is what matters most. You get a few extra keys along the top of the keyboard, including volume, mic mute, and a shortcut to open ASUS Armoury Crate software.